Though I walk in the valley of deep shadow, I fear no harm, for you are with me. Those words felt new when the fighting started again. But the family that took us in was a gift from Jehovah.
This is the second part of the Jehovah's Witnesses fanfic that they started in last month's JW Broadcasting episode. You see, Jehovah's Witnesses have this mythos around persecution, where they expect persecution in every single conflict going on, even if it has absolutely nothing to do with them. They often share stories where the fact of them being witnesses is what signals them out, either to put them in danger or to carry them to safety. This is a dramatization of just that. Jehovah's Witnesses are told this is based on real events, but this likely merely means this is based on the fact that some Jehovah's Witnesses have been displaced by the Ukraine war and nothing else. If they had stories where this had actually happened, they would be interviewing these people that this happened to. No, at best, this is an amalgamation of stories all retold with a Jehovah's Witness lens, because none of the stories individually were too interesting to tell on their own. That way, they can pretend literally anything happened as long as it fits their narrative. Also, do they have props of examining the scriptures daily without the year printed just so they can recycle this propaganda forever?
Luda.
Yakiv.
I know her from school. This is my brother Pablo. He protects this whole area. I'm surprised you're still here.
You too.
Why? I stayed to help the fight. Where else would I be?
Oh, no, I just meant...
This is our home. Everybody has to do their part to support the war. You're what?
She's a Jehovah. They don't care about the country.
Oh, the cowards. Your people should be shot.
Hey!
Come on. Let's go.
I just froze.
This is persecution porn. This persecution did not happen. It's all so they can pretend that they get persecuted. In reality, this isn't how most people think. There are a lot of people who admire or at least respect conscientious objectors because they abide by what they believe in and can usually explain why they are against war in a simple way. Jehovah's Witnesses can't give explanations anymore, and this is romanticized by her simply paralyzing in fear and not being able to give a good witness like she was supposed to against her bully. A bully that is nothing but projection from this religion. I've met soldiers, even passionate ones, and they are more likely to list why you're wrong about being against war than simply calling you a coward. The ones who call other people's names to differentiate themselves from them, like worldly, are Jehovah's Witnesses. And they are also the only ones thinking that you should die if you don't agree with them. Not by being shot, of course, but during the Battle of Armageddon, which should be far more horrifying way to die. This dramatization just shows how deep Jehovah's Witnesses are in their own echo chamber, where the only enemies they can come up with are only consistently projections of themselves.
Today is the day we'll try to leave. We have brothers and sisters waiting for us. After all these weeks, it may finally happen.
Have your tickets and ID ready.
One at a time.
Go ahead, I'm right behind you.
Leaving the country?
Yes. Me, my mother, and my grandma are leaving.
We're giving priority to the weak and sick. And there's a lot you can do here. Don't you care about your country?
I respect our country, but I am loyal to God. I support God's kingdom first.
I think we make you stay. Go back.
Oh, let's recap. The guard over here is saying that they are prioritizing the sick and the weak to leave the country, and she's neither sick nor weak, and there's a lot of work that she could be doing to support her community. And she doesn't mean killing people, since a young woman like her would be unlikely to be listed on active combat, especially when there's a lot of work needed to distribute humanitarian aid around the most affected communities, along with rebuilding infrastructure to keep communities safe and connected. This makes sense. If you are in a war zone, you can't expect preferential treatment just because your religion doesn't want you to work with the government even to help people, especially when there are people in vulnerable conditions who still need to evacuate. Ideally, you'd not only gladly stay behind, but you'd get involved in helping whoever is left. That's obviously not how Jehovah's Witnesses view things. Jehovah's Witnesses don't even consider themselves part of the community and are unlikely to help anyone in their communities, especially if that means joining an organized effort. Instead, they can only help other Jehovah's Witnesses and believe that if they can't evacuate a place as fast as the most vulnerable people out there, that's persecution right there. That's why she gives this spiel about God's kingdom. God's kingdom has nothing to do with the fact that it is not her turn to evacuate yet. Remember, in a dramatization written by Jehovah's Witnesses, this is supposed to be a defense of her beliefs against persecution, which apparently is when you can't evacuate whenever you want. Nobody is persecuting her by telling her that it's not her turn and by suggesting her to get involved in helping her community. She just brings this God's kingdom out of nowhere to both get in trouble and to get out of trouble, as we're about to see.
Hold on. God's kingdom? Did you say God's kingdom? My father, he was one of you. I don't agree with your beliefs. But I know you're good people. So you and your family, get on the train.
Do not become anxious, for what you are to speak will be given you.
So saying some nonsense of God's kingdom, which by the way is an expression used by tons of Christian denominations around the world, is what allowed her and her family to get preferential treatment to leave the country. Just as it seemed to be the reason why she wasn't going to be allowed to get preferential treatment to leave the country. That's how little sense this dramatization makes, but it doesn't have to make sense. It's propaganda. As long as it reinforces the us versus them mentality and adds some mystical power to you talking about your cult, the propaganda does its job. Also, I can't be the only one who thinks these videos look cheaper and cheaper by the second, right? The whole thing was shot on a green screen with stock footage, and it's painfully obvious. But that's all for now. There are still some juicy bits to the broadcast, so subscribe and consider supporting me like these handsome peeps right here, who I really appreciate because they give me money for pizza, and that's why they can already watch the full version of my rebuttal to this month's JW broadcasting.